A hidden beauty revealed, how a blind duke discovered an unexpected love that changed everything in the quaint town of Willow Creek, where lavender fields danced with the breeze and the air buzzed with laughter, lived James, a 30-year-old blind duke. To the townspeople, he was a figure of privilege and emblem of old money and stately grace. But behind the heart of his estate, James felt the grim weight of their judgment. He wore affable charm like a mask, yet inside, he battled feelings of isolation, his beloved estate transforming into a gilded cage. Only his spirited sister Clara offered solace, her loyalty a lifeline in the tide of social expectations. It was the annual Lantern Festival, a cherished community event packed with laughter and the scent of fresh popcorn. Clara, always the force of joy in his life, urged him to step outside. "Come on, James. The world is waiting." Her excitement painted the air vibrant as lanterns flickered and glowed. He felt the warmth of her hand on his arm, a gentle nudge forward. As they stepped into the jubilant crowd, the sounds of chatter washed over him. James breathed deeply, losing himself in the symphony of voices. With each laugh ringing out, he felt walls begin to crumble. Clara squeezed his hand, her energy lifting him from the shadows of his insecurities. Then, he heard her laughter, a sound like soft chimes. It pulled him closer. His heart raced as he took a tentative step forward, almost as if fate was guiding him. That's when he met Lily. She was an emerging artist, and he could sense her vibrancy, the electric spirit she exuded. They exchanged words that flowed effortlessly, transforming the noise around them into a sweet harmony. Sparks ignited in his chest, a reminder of what connection felt like, even in his dark world. But their budding friendship didn't come easily. Clara's joy for her brother was infectious, yet disapproving whispers frolicked through the streets. James knew Lily's family eyed him critically. The invisible weight pressed down harder as doubts crept in. How could someone like Lily ever want him? Before he knew it, life had shifted that night. He found himself wrestling with questions late into the evening. Can I be worthy of her? Hope simmered beneath the surface, but like quicksand, insecurities threatened to pull him under. Then came the town meeting, where dissatisfaction simmered amongst whispers and frowns about James's role in the community and Lily's family's disdain for his status. The atmosphere was thick with tension, fears bubbling to the surface. At that moment, everything hung in the balance. James rose, fueled by love and a fierce sense of justice. He defended Lily against the deep-rooted biases and economic divides, his voice trembling yet strong. Love shouldn't be chained by our differences. His passion rang through the room. Silence enveloped them, a heavy blanket of anticipation. In that charged moment, he and Lily stood together, realizing that their love offered a vivid palette to challenge the monochrome narratives of privilege staining their lives. As the gazes of the townspeople bore down upon them like judgmental weights, a question loomed in the air: could love conquer these barriers, or were they destined to be separated by the very society they belonged to? The unknown stirred within James, leaving readers yearning to see what happens next. The silence in the town hall was deafening. Every breath felt like it carried the weight of judgment, and James could almost hear the whispers swirling around him like a storm. He held his breath, feeling the tension building. He could sense Clara standing nearby, her support a silent strength. And then there was Lily, her presence intoxicating yet surreal. He could almost feel the resolve pulsing through her, matching the racing of his heart. Lily stepped closer, her voice steady even in the face of adversity. James speaks the truth. Loving someone should mean looking past societal expectations. Her courage was a fire, igniting a sense of hope within him. But as he turned, he could hear the bitterness in the murmurs cutting through the room. The scornful voices, wrapped in tradition and scorn, reminded him of the invisible chains that sought to bind them. Why should the Duke's worth be measured in inherited wealth? Lily's father's voice boomed, heavy with disdain. He's just a blind man playing a role. He cannot fulfill his duties to this community. Each word was like a blade, aimed precisely at the heart of everything James fought to understand. Could they really measure him as less, simply because he couldn't see? James felt a rush of anger mixed with fear. Would they never see him for who he was? For the love blooming inside of him? But deep down, he also felt something else, a connection forging itself between him and Lily that was stronger than any condemnation could touch. Just because I lack eyesight doesn't mean I can't love fiercely or see the truth with my heart, James retorted, his voice breaking through the murmurings. A tremble took hold of him, but it lit a spark in his chest too. Awareness settled heavily in the room. Just then, Clara stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. James has done more for this community than most, despite how others may see him. Have any of you taken the time to really know him? She turned to the town, her spirit lighting the shadows. James stands up for what is right. He challenges us to do the same. The room shifted slightly, as if stirred by an unexpected wind. It was a small, hopeful crack in the facade. But doubt still hovered like clouds over their heads. James understood fear was deeply rooted in tradition. What if we're not just two souls intertwined against all odds? What if love isn't enough? His heart thundered, the truth hanging thick in the air. Lily gently grasped his hand, weaving her fingers through his. Fighting for what's right is never easy, but alone, we're weak. Together, we can break down the walls. He felt her warmth, a grounding force amidst the chaos, and in that moment, he knew they had to try. As the community looked on in swirling hesitance, James straightened his spine, conviction spilling from his heart. We must open our hearts. Together, we can create a narrative that encompasses everyone. Helen was watching, her uncertain expression sparking more doubt than before but also hinting at something deeper. It was the turning point. With their future delicately poised between love and resistance, James could feel the air crackling with possibilities, thrilling and terrifying all at once. What he couldn't yet see was how their decisions would ripple through Willow Creek. Could love reshape their fates? Would they find the courage to face their world hand in hand? As the clock struck midnight, a distant echo of bells filled the room, raising hopes alongside fears. James stood at the edge of possibility, knowing that the struggle had just begun. Would the weight of expectation crush their love, or could they soar above it, hand in hand, toward a brighter tomorrow? The tension in the town hall was suffocating, yet a flicker of hope seemed to pulse in the air, feeding off the bravery of Clara and Lily. James's heart raced, a mix of fear and anticipation propelling him forward. He had never felt such an urgency to be seen, not just as the blind duke but as a person. James. Clara's voice cut through the noise. This isn't just about you. It's about us, our whole community. Don't forget that. He nodded, every word fueling his resolve. With Lily at his side, he could confront not just the townsfolk, but also the doubts lurking within himself. Together, they were a beacon, one that could pierce through the heavy fog of judgment clinging to Willow Creek. Imagine if love could unite us, he began again, his voice clearer now, gaining strength from the warmth of Lily's hand. What if we let go of fear? What if we embraced the differences that make us human? We shine brighter together, don't you see? James could feel the room shift, the murmurings becoming softer, curiosity slicing through skepticism. A few brows furrowed in thought. Every heartbeat echoed his plea for understanding and acceptance. But how can we trust a man who can't even see? A voice called from the back. It was a familiar tone, echoing doubt and disapproval that he had heard many times before. It's not about sight, James answered, forcing himself to remain calm as he turned towards the voice. My disability doesn't dictate my ability to lead or love. I've spent years understanding our community's needs better than most. Love doesn't need eyes, it requires a deeper kind of seeing, one that comes from the heart. Clara looked proud, and Lily's grip tightened significantly, an unspoken promise sparking between them. Yet doubt still lingered, like shadows clinging stubbornly to light. James glanced around the hall, searching for a glimmer of change in the faces facing him. Some looked skeptical, others contemplative, but there were a few, like Helen, whose expression softened. Did it mean anything? He couldn't be certain, but he wanted to believe. Imagine the story we could tell, Clara said, stepping into the space again, her presence magnetic. If we band together and embrace those who are different, think of how history would remember us. We have a chance to lead Willow Creek into a new age, to show what true strength lies in unity, not division. The palpable energy in the hall shifted again, eyes lighting with understanding. For the first time, James sensed genuine interest, a communal desire to reassess the narrative that had long defined them. But as hope flickered, another voice broke through, filled with desperation. And what if this all fails? What if we lose tradition? What if it all falls apart? The weight of fear loomed again, heavy and oppressive. James's chest tightened, but he refused to let it drown him. But isn't it more fearful to live in a world segregated by old beliefs? The risk of failure pales in comparison to the beauty of love and the possibility of transformation. Lily squeezed his hand tightly. We have to try, she said, her voice rising above the din. For us. For Willow Creek. Let us redefine our legacy, together. As the room buzzed with restless energy, faces shifting between doubt and curiosity, James took a deep breath. The momentum was shifting, and he felt teetering on the edge of something monumental. Could they really reshape their future? Could love emboldened by community make a difference? It felt daunting, yet exhilarating, like standing at the beginning of a new dawn. The clock struck 1, the sound reverberating through walls that seemed to constrict under the weight of unspoken change. It sent ripples through the crowd. James stood at the leading edge of that ripple, daring to hope. What unforeseen challenges lay ahead? Would the very foundation of Willow Creek tremble beneath their yearning for freedom, or could they forge something magnificent in the face of adversity? The night was still young, and so was their fight. The energy in the room crackled with unseen potential as James continued to breathe in the moment. Every heartbeat echoed his desire for unity, and with each word spoken, he felt more anchored to his purpose. Clara, his steadfast ally, was no longer just a voice but a force beside him. She was lighting a path through the encroaching darkness of fear and uncertainty. Sometimes, he said, the edge of his voice slicing through the murmurs, the most beautiful things in life are hidden from view. I can't see the sun rise, but I can feel its warmth. I can't see your smiles, but I know they exist because of the love and kindness I've experienced. This time, silence hung in the air, palpable and heavy, as if everyone was suspended in his words. James's thoughts raced. Was he really reaching them? Would they allow the cold walls built by prejudice to open up a little? A soft hand brushed against his arm, and he turned instinctively towards Lily. Her eyes shone with unshed tears, and he felt a swell of gratitude for her unwavering support. He pictured the scene vividly, the gentle blues of the sky, something he could never witness yet always felt deeply through the warmth of others' laughter and the threads of community he had experienced over the years. Love can heal, he pressed on, desperation weaving through his determination. It can overcome the bitterness and division that have plagued us for far too long. We have endured much, and we have fought against invisible chains. Isn't it time that we break loose together? As he spoke, a flicker of hope ignited in the audience, brighter than before. James felt it like a spark catching kindling. But it was also fragile, and he knew he had to protect it. Change doesn't mean losing our roots, Clara said, stepping up to reinforce his words. It means evolving. We can honor traditions while creating a future that welcomes all. With those words, the air felt lighter. Helen, sitting in the front row, appeared to draw in a shaky breath, and James sensed a shift. The town's fear was turning into something else: curiosity. Excitement. Hope. Then from somewhere back, he heard the familiar voice of the town's elder, Mr. Collins. But what about our past? What if this leads to chaos? Mr. Collins, James began, focusing all the warmth he could muster into his words, our past is a part of us, yes. But it shouldn't chain us. We can cherish the memories while we also write new chapters. We have the power to build a community that our children will be proud of, a legacy of love and respect. Isn't that worth a try? A murmur floated through the hall, soft at first, then growing louder as people began to nod. The air crackled with possibility, and it filled the room like the sweet scent of spring. A crowd that had once seemed impenetrable was starting to soften, their defenses lowering, curious about this new story. But just as a wave of hope washed over them, another voice cut sharply through the hopeful buzz. And what if we lose ourselves in the process? The voice echoed, a challenge tainted with fear. James turned, fear battling for a place in his heart, but he refused to show it. In embracing each other, we don't lose ourselves. We discover our true selves, a better version, united. He could feel it, the tension, the fear, the burden of traditions, and yet, there was grit in the room, an unyielding desire for something better. Now was the moment, and they were teetering on the edge. Could they really walk this path together, leaving fear behind? As he stood before the gathering, James couldn't shake the feeling they were on the brink of something different, something beautiful. As the discussion simmered and voices rose, a resonating thought bloomed in his mind. If they succeeded, what would this new Willow Creek feel like? Was it really possible, or would they retreat into the comfort of their old ways? What awaited them beyond the walls of fear? With hearts pounding and breath hitched in anticipation, they braced for the journey ahead, unaware that the true test was still to come. The room felt charged, the atmosphere thick with tension and hope. James reached deep, searching for the right words that could ripple through the crowd, encouraging them to consider a leap of faith. But just as clarity began to settle in his mind, the voice that had spoken before rose again, more forceful this time. What if embracing change means letting go of who we are? What if it leads to chaos and an unraveling of everything our families fought for? Mr. Collins' words cracked like thunder in the tense air. James squeezed his fists, a surge of frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. But what if holding on means we wither away? Fear can keep us safe, but it can also isolate us. He looked directly at Mr. Collins, his heart pounding like a drum, willing a connection. At some point, we have to choose fear or love. The murmurs shifted, uncertainty now mixing with a growing sense of urgency. Clara stepped forward again, her eyes blazing with resolve. Mr. Collins, I understand your fears, but do you truly believe that opening up to newness will push us away from our roots? Change isn't about erasing history, it's about bringing in more voices, more colors into our tapestry. More warmth. James watched as a woman in the back wiped away a tear, her expression one of resolve. That small gesture stirred something within him. Here they were on the verge of something extraordinary, but could the fear of the unknown yield to the promise of love and unity? Every important change throughout history was once met with resistance. James spoke with renewed vigor. From families choosing to accept different lifestyles to societies growing to embrace diversity, every one of those moments began by stepping into unknown territory. The crowd was silent now, absorbing his words, yet he could tell their hearts were still split. Suddenly, an unexpected voice chimed in, lighter but full of sincerity. What comes after looks good, but what about now? What do we do with our realities today? It was a young man, nervous yet determined, his sincerity igniting curiosity in the crowd. How do we face our daily lives when change feels so massive? James paused, feeling the weight of that question. One step at a time, he replied, the words flowing from a place deep within. Everything significant begins with understanding ourselves first, that essay journey we can start together. Start small, make room for one new idea, one new relationship, one act of kindness. And from there, the path opens. We'll forge this together, one heartbeat at a time. Around him, he saw heads nodding, hesitation starting to melt away. Hope flickered like candlelight as they began to share those small gestures. Clara smiled at him, her light illuminating the dim corners of doubt. Imagine if we began to walk this journey, she said, a gentle ripple of energy spreading through the room. A potluck to share our favorite meals, where every dish tells a story. It may seem simple, but those stories create connections. As if the weight of the world had suddenly grown lighter, a few more voices joined in, suggesting ideas, small at first, but gathering momentum. Perhaps a festival, no, a community garden. We could even hold workshops to understand each other's cultures, someone called out. The ripples of conversation grew, laughter blossoming among uncertainty. New ideas were sharing space with insecurities, and James caught the potent pulse of belief filling the room. But amidst the swell of camaraderie, he noticed a shadow looming. Mr. Collins stirred at the edge of the crowd, his expression unreadable. The old man had yet to yield. Just when it seemed they might emerge into the sunlight of a new beginning, James felt the chill of impending doubt. What if, after all of this, they fractured under the pressure of their own expectations? Before he could voice his concern, Clara squeezed his arm as if sensing his unease, urging him to trust in the magic unfolding. "Let us keep this going, then," James said, determination flaring in his chest. "Let us gather again and brainstorm these beautiful possibilities." As energy surged through the room, laughter echoed, and hope intermingled, James realized that tonight was just the beginning. What awaited them was still uncertain, but together, they might discover strength beyond their comprehension. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was not only a turning point for them but also for him personally. Would he find the hidden beauty that love could create in their shared journey, even if it was still wrapped in the shadows of doubt? The heart of Willow Creek stood poised at the edge of a transformative new chapter, each voice echoing with potential. And as James caught Clara's eye, he couldn't help but wonder, was he truly prepared for what this new path would bring? The next meeting was set for a week later, a time filled with both excitement and apprehension. James couldn't shake the thought of last week's gathering. The energy had been electric, but the shadow of Mr. Collins loomed. Would their newfound momentum hold? That day, Clara was busy in the kitchen, preparing her signature dish for the potluck. It was her grandmother's recipe, one that had graced every family celebration, rich with memories. As she added the spices, her mind whirled with ideas for the event. Could a single meal really spark the connections they needed? She had to believe it would. Meanwhile, James was preparing a small speech, a guide to navigate the evening. He believed in the power of shared stories and connection. Yet, as he rehearsed the words in front of the mirror, doubt crept in. What if he couldn't glue together the fragments of their divided town? His heart raced with what felt like a promise and a threat all at once, the promise of unity with the threat of failure hanging in the balance. On the day of the gathering, the community center buzzed with anticipation. Tables adorned with handmade decorations lined the room, each one holding a dish that whispered stories. The lingering aroma of Clara's dish mingled with sweet pastries and savory casseroles, creating a comforting embrace. As they began to arrive, the energy was palpable. Small groups formed, shifting around the tables, each representation a blend of traditions. Clara spotted Mr. Collins, his expression still hardened but softened slightly by curiosity. She nudged James, her heart pounding. "Look, he's here." "Let us hope he's just as hungry for connection," Jim replied, determination fluttering like a flag in his chest. When the group settled down to eat, James rose to speak. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, his voice steady but heartfelt. "This is more than a meal. It's a chance to share our stories, our history, and our hopes for the future." The room fell silent, attentively watching him. "Every dish in front of you has a tale. Let us take turns sharing what we brought, why it matters to us. We're all part of this community, tonight, we celebrate that." A young woman spoke first, sharing how her mother always made her favorite dish to bring comfort after tough days. Laughter followed as others added their own memories, bridging gaps within the shared narrative of food. Clara felt warmth spreading, believing in those moments woven with laughter and nostalgia. Yet, watching Mr. Collins, she noticed a flicker of resistance in his eyes, as if he was grappling between love for tradition and fear of losing it. Instead of breaking, she felt a deeper push. She stepped forward, her voice rising above the laughter. Mr. Collins, she began gently, connecting directly with him, what's your story? What dish did you bring? All eyes turned to him. The old man shifted in his chair, a storm brewing behind his steely gaze. Finally, he stood, gripping the edge of the table as he collected himself. I brought my mother's stuffing recipe, he said, the tension in the room solidifying around him. It's not just a recipe. It's a memory of generations who built their lives around standards and traditions. Clara smiled, encouraging. That's beautiful, but what if sharing it also opens space for newer traditions? Mr. Collins hesitated. The air grew taut, every heartbeat magnified in that moment. James took a steadying breath. Perhaps we might build upon our origins, not erase them. The stuffing could be the base that enhances new tales to come. The room held its breath, each soul feeling the weight of his words. Would Mr. Collins allow himself to embrace that possibility? For a long moment, silence reigned. Then finally, perhaps, he murmured, his voice tremulous, I could share more of our family stories, even feel what you all are trying to create. Hope crackled in the air, a rush of relief and possibility surging through Clara and James. They could feel the walls he had built starting to tremble. But in that moment of connection, a sudden sadness trickled through James. What if tonight wasn't enough? What if they needed to dig deeper, confront harsh truths that lingered just beneath the surface? As the room began to resonate with warmth and stories interweaving, the seeds of a community slowly taking root, James sensed that more challenges lay ahead. Would they find a way to nurture these connections without fracturing again? What unseen battles still lay in wait? As the evening glowed with the flickering light of possibility, questions loomed larger than ever. The real journey was just beginning. The room hummed with warmth and excitement, laughter rising and falling like a melody. But as James watched Mr. Collins, that warmth contrasted sharply with the man's hardened face, the battle within him silent yet loud. Clara stepped closer, compelled to guide him further into the village's heart. Your family, she urged gently, what did your mother teach you about the spirit of gathering? It was an intimate question, vulnerability wrapped in sincere curiosity. As Mr. Collins opened his mouth, a collective breath filled the air. She believed in the power of togetherness, he started, his voice cracking. Every holiday, we gather, even when times were hard. Those moments held us up, when the storms outside threatened to tear us apart. Clara nodded, sensing how each revelation was stitching a fragile bond. She saw Mr. Collins' expression begin to soften, and it stirred something inside her. If she could coax more stories from him, perhaps others would follow. Encouraged, she continued, we're all here for support and new beginnings. Let us embrace the past, but also look forward together. A ripple of agreement moved across the room. Voices began to emerge, hesitant yet hopeful. A middle-aged woman spoke of her father's famous barbecue, laughter spilling from her lips as she recalled family bickering over the grill. The older couple shared how they had met over a shared dessert at a community fair, the initial nervousness of first love lighting up their faces. James watched as more stories filled the room, each one a vital thread woven into a larger tapestry of community. The food on the tables transformed from simple dishes to living, breathing memories, each flavor igniting shared laughter and poignant sorrow. Then, suddenly, Clara seized an unexpected moment. How about we try something different? She proposed, her voice clear and bright. Let us pair up and share a story we've learned tonight but from someone else's perspective. A murmur of surprise swept through the gathering. There was a brief silence before people began to partner, energy buzzing as two voices shared one tale. Mr. Collins hovered in the corner, observing the shift with reluctant intrigue. Clara felt a flicker of determination. She approached him once more. What about you? Who could share more about your family? His eyes flickered with indecision, but the quiet pressure of the room urged him to let go. Perhaps, my sister. Perfect. Why don't you tell us about her? Clara smiled, enticing him to embrace the narrative. He swallowed hard but nodded. She was always the storyteller, loved to bring the family together with her wild tales. We spent hours after dinner, hanging on her every word. As the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, Clara felt hope blooming like wildflowers in spring. After a moment of reflection, he added, "Maybe I can tell you about our last big family gathering. It was one for the ages." James saw a spark igniting in Mr. Collins, as if the man were dusting off old memories that had long been buried. Around the room, faces softened in anticipation. The warmth shifted, wrapped in a desire to hear more, and in that moment of storytelling, barriers fell like leaves in autumn. But as Mr. Collins began recounting the tale of joy interlaced with loss, James' heart thudded to a different beat. What if the stories they shared unearthed deeper divides? What if hurtful truths hung in the shadows, waiting to emerge? With each revelation, James felt layers peeling back, vulnerable yet essential. Would this be their moment of unity or the spark that ignited conflict anew? As Mr. Collins' voice filled the air with the weight of forgotten heritage, James sensed a pivotal moment at hand. Just as he began to feel the pulse of something divine in the air, a loud crash shattered the atmosphere. A paper balloon, tangled in the ceiling fan's blades, rained down, catching everyone off guard. Laughter erupted, breaking the tension. A brief moment of levity, yet as everyone turned in bewilderment, James couldn't shake the feeling that they were treading on a tightrope poised between connection and chaos. Would they all land safely on solid ground, or would that crash herald something darker lurking beneath? As stories continued to blend into one another, questions lingered, promising that the heart of the matter was about to expose itself. As the laughter subsided, the energy in the room shifted once more. Mr. Collins took a steadying breath, the brief moment of levity lingering like smoke in the air. Clara noticed his hesitation, but she saw something else, a flicker of determination behind his eyes. He was ready to reveal more. About that last gathering, he began, his voice lower now but laced with a newfound vigor. It was a stormy night. The kind that made you want to stay indoors and forget the world outside. He paused as images washed over him. James could almost see them, family members huddled together around a fire, shadows flickering against the walls, each face telling a story of its own. It was a small place, Mr. Collins continued, nostalgia tightening his features. We were crammed into Grandma's living room, with a roast on the table and laughter echoing, until the lights went out. Gasps and chuckles erupted from the gathered crowd, all too familiar with the unpredictability of storms. James felt a sense of shared history weave through the room, binding them in that moment. All we had were candles. Mr. Collins' voice trembled slightly. But instead of despair, we started telling stories just like this. My sister, she was the first to speak up. I can still hear her. Let us not let the darkness win, she said, her voice shining bright in that moment. A warm smile crept onto Mr. Collins' face as he recounted his sister's bravery. The room leaned in closer, each person captivated by the tale unfolding, how each family member took a turn, sharing tales of their childhood, their dreams, their fears, as shadows danced around them. It became the best night of our lives. In that darkness, we found a light we didn't know we were missing. Mr. Collins paused, as if that very moment had anchored him to a simpler time filled with laughter and love. James felt an invisible weight lift from the room. The emotions shared seemed to hang, shimmering like the candle flames that once flickered around Mr. Collins' family. It was as if the stories themselves were rebuilding the very fabric of connection that had frayed over the years. But as the warmth spread, darkness still loomed somewhere beneath. Clara sensed its pull, how hard it could be for Mr. Collins to reconcile this beautiful memory with the grief he carried. The thought sent a chill through her, echoing the unspoken words that lingered, what had led him to retreat behind such hard walls. Suddenly, the older couple who shared their dessert story raised a hand, letting their voices echo through the space. And what happened next, Mr. Collins? Did you keep that spirit alive? A ripple of curiosity floated through the crowd. Clara felt hearts beating faster, eager to explore the journey that followed. Mr. Collins shifted, his brows furrowed. We did, but before he could finish, a rush of energy dispersed among the guests. A young boy in the corner had tugged on his mother's sleeve, eyes shining bright with innocence. I want to hear about the sad parts too. If you don't tell about the sad stuff, we can't really understand the happy stuff, right? A murmur of agreement swept the room. Mr. Collins looked caught between surprise and a flicker of admiration. Clara's insight had been spot on. They were ready to dive deeper, to unearth the complexities hidden beneath the brighter stories. This was a moment both delicate and powerful. James felt the tension spike. Would Mr. Collins share what lay beneath the happiness? Would he step into the fear of sharing that pain, or would he retreat into the shadows he'd known for so long? As Mr. Collins opened his mouth slowly, words began to form. The weight of the moment charged the air, and James held his breath, aching to know what was coming. Would they step into the light together, or would the shadows rise once more? In a room filled with shared laughter and stories, the most important chapter was yet to unfold. Mr. Collins cleared his throat, a tremor betraying the calm demeanor he sought to maintain. You need to understand, he began, that night was not just about only laughter. It was also filled with whispers of things left unsaid. The audience leaned in closer, the shift in tone tethering them to his every word. James held the breath that had caught in his throat, sensing an unfolding truth that could fracture or fortify the bonds they had just started to weave. My sister, Mr. Collins paused, unable to find the words as the memories stacked around him like heavy stones. She was always the brave one. But then before we could figure out how to be more than just shadows in the night, life took a different turn. As he spoke, a layer of sadness cloaked the room, thick enough to hold back the light. It was years later, during one of our gatherings, that she revealed she was sick, he continued. We were in the same living room, but the joy felt distant, like a fading echo. Gasps rippled through the audience. Clara watched as his eyes swam with unshed tears. We fought against the darkness as best as we could. But, wives and husbands, parents and children, they couldn't keep each other safe from everything. The young boy squeezed his mother's arm tighter. What happened? He whispered, the innocence in his voice an anchor for sighs of grief. Mr. Collins looked around the room, his expression shifting, as if he were searching for strength in their faces. We shared stories to keep hope alive, but in the end, the darkness crept in. He paused, the weight of that truth a tangible force around them. She didn't win her fight. Silent tears began to trace paths down cheeks, but something magical happened, a flicker of resilience sparked. Yet, in that pain, we understood something powerful, he said, a newfound energy igniting in his voice. We discovered the beauty in those stories we shared. The comfortable silences. The laughter through tears. It taught us what it meant to truly connect. Clara felt the pain resonating within her own heart, the understanding that came from sharing grief, from allowing sorrow and joy to mingle together like night and day. The older couple from before nodded, their hands intertwined, revealing years of weathered love. This became our way to remember her, Mr. Collins said, his words wrapping around them like a warm blanket. By sharing, we brought her essence back. The laughter, those tales, they never belonged to the past. They are the springs of today, everyday life shifting back into focus. A hush fell over the crowd, pregnant with the weight of reflection. Each member of the gathering seemed lost in their own memories, the shared history binding them in a tapestry woven of heartache and hope. Mr. Collins straightened, a glimmer of resolve shining through the mist of sorrow. It taught me that grief is the price of love, he declared. It hurt like hell, but through it, we celebrate each other. So, even in the sad parts, the tough parts, we learn to appreciate the laughter. All of it matters. The young boy, eyes wide and bright, echoed, so, we can still be happy. Yes, Mr. Collins smiled, the weight of the conversation pressing lightly upon his heart. In sharing, we find out that it's never just one emotion or another, it's both. Life is like that. James felt a swell of emotion rising like a tide, propelling him toward Mr. Collins. They stood at the edge together, a band of storytellers waiting for comfort, or perhaps closure. "Tell us more," James urged, the urge washing over him like a wave. "What else did you learn?" Mr. Collins opened his mouth, the flicker of determination returning. In that charged moment, Clara sensed they were standing on the brink of a deeper revelation, a key to unlocking the next chapter, their paths intertwining in ways they had yet to perceive. But as the room held its collective breath, a sudden crash from outside shattered the air, a sharp reminder that they were still in the grip of a storm. What would it reveal about them next? The storm's roar echoed like a beast unleashed, shaking the very foundation of the community center. The lights flickered, threatening to plunge them back into darkness. Everyone jumped, their laughter and stories momentarily halted. But under the cacophony, something remarkable was happening. Mr. Collins straightened, newfound resolve sparking in his eyes. "You see," he said, raising his voice over the storm. "That's life, isn't it? It may be chaotic and unpredictable, but that's where the beauty lies." Each word seemed to lift the weight that had settled in the air. James felt the shift. Everything around him pulsed with an urgency that could not be ignored. Clara moved closer to her brother, her spirit a bright light guiding their way. "Let us step into the chaos together," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with hope. From somewhere in the crowd, another voice chimed in. "We can face the storm together." Others nodded, a wave of agreement spreading like a gentle breeze. They were ready to embrace it, to confront their fears head-on. As the wind howled outside, James felt a new kind of strength rising within him. He stepped forward, his heart racing but steadfast. "Let us not forget why we're here. The stories shared tonight have carved paths through our fears. We've laughed, we've cried. And we've found each other in this beautiful chaos." He could almost touch the undeniable pulse of connection between them. "Every storm is merely a prelude to clarity and growth. If we can weather this together," he declared, glancing at Mr. Collins, "then we can build a stronger, more vibrant Willow Creek." The energy in the room was electric. Laughter mixed with the tumult of nature outside as it transformed the fearful silence into a symphony of camaraderie. The gathering leaned into the storm, voices rising above the roar until they were woven together in unity. Mr. Collins stepped beside James, his presence solid, echoing strength and wisdom. "Together, we're a force to be reckoned with. Let us not shy away from the storm any longer. Let us face it and find our joy among the chaos." With that, the group erupted into cheers, a chorus of voices harmonizing. They transformed the tension into a celebration of resilience. Stories of strength and unity began to emerge, tales of how they faced personal storms and how the community had held them together. Lily stood, her spirit alight with fervor. "And let us remember to keep those stories alive. Let us honor not just the happy moments, but the challenges too, as they shape who we are collectively." Her reminder catalyzed a burst of inspiration. Others began to share their own tales, tales not just of sorrow, but of triumph, of finding light in the darkest days. Each story added a layer to the growing sense of community. As the storm began to wane, a newfound illumination spread through the room. The flickering light overhead began to stabilize, casting warm beams over the gathered crowd. They were no longer separate pieces of a jigsaw, lost in individual shadows. Now, they were threads of a rich tapestry, woven together through shared experience. As the evening waned, Clara gazed at her brother, who seemed transformed by the collective experience. There was a spark in his eyes, a clarity that he would not just endure but thrive within the embrace of his community. They had ventured beyond fear, into a realm of shared love. James looked around, feeling the pulse of hope reverberating within him. "Today isn't just a meeting, it's a promise we will continue to grow, even through storms. As we honor the past, we'll rewrite our future together." The crowd roared in agreement, voices swelling into a chorus of affirmation. They were a phoenix rising from the ashes, each individual representing hope, resilience, and possibility. As they prepared to leave, rain began to sprinkle through the once tempestuous winds. But now it felt like a cleansing, a promise of new beginnings and brighter tomorrows. And in that moment, James felt love illuminate every corner of his heart. He sighed, a joyful breath filling the space with warmth and belonging. Through Lily, through Clara, through their stories, every soul that gathered that night had changed in the face of adversity. Willow Creek would be reborn through the rich colors of unity. Life would still throw storms their way, but together, they had discovered that love was always worth the risk. As they stepped out into the rain, the cool droplets kissed their skin, each drop a celebration of every heart in that room, forever intertwined by laughter, pain, and the radiant beauty of resilient love. This was their moment, a turning point, keeping their eyes fixed on the horizon, ready to face whatever may come next. Now, as we close this chapter, I must ask you, you need to subscribe now to stay updated on all our exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Don't hesitate to comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this transformative journey. And please share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your involvement means everything. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait not even one more second to share.